Yo, yo, Stagnation,
Crypto Warriors!
Welcome back to the channel.
Champions!
We are in this piece.
Back in his house?
Yes, let's see who we have online with us. Please let us know, by the way, how the audio sounds. If it's too low.
Sound check.
Because it seems we've been having some issues with our mics sounding too low sometimes. So if it's too low, just let us know in the comments, and we will try turning it up. Top of the morning. We'll wait for some others to join, and then we'll get right into it.
Boom. I'm feeling it.
Listen, man. The gunner is in the house.
Honestly, man, we gotta do a Spotify session with BK Crypto. Man.
Hey, yeah, most
He's
definitely,
on
man.
point.
Hey, BK Crypto, let us know, man. We'd like to have you on the show, and we'll just chit chat it up, man. Any moment. So,
how can we change the world for the better together?
hey, let us know, sir. Let us know. All right. So, good morning, BK Crypto in the house. Double O, what are we talking about today, man?
Today's President's Day. Yep. And apparently we've been getting in more debt than ever. As a matter of fact, did you know that the US started in debt? About 43 million
I had no idea, but given
pounds
the
back in the day.
given the trend of debt, it seems that we are, it's one with debt these days. So
We are a country built on debt.
yeah, and seems to keep growing the debt like nonstop. So, but the main issue with this continuous growth of debt, and what even more interestingly, the fact that it is public debt and debt that seems to be affecting the quality of lives for everyone within America through taxes and so on and so forth, and the continuous devaluation of the money, right? So it seems to me that the way this trend is going is one that there is debt being created by a bunch of people, which we did not give them the authority to create the debt. The debt is created, the fake money now is being spent on things that
We didn't vote for as
no
well.
one voted for. However, we have to pay back this debt through taxation and so on. But when you look at the rate at which this debt is rising, it is very clear that it seems mathematically impossible to pay. Even if we were taxed at 100%, essentially making us slaves at that point.
Yep.
So we must. You good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we must.
So much debt I can't breathe.
Come on now. We just gotta know, man. Big stretcher activity, man. But so it's something worth asking ourselves. If this debt keeps rising as it is, who is expected to pay it, and when does it stop? Right. So we'll take a little bit of a dive into that today. Shall we look at some comments before we carry on with that?
Yeah.
Hey, BK Crypto says a lot of stuff to talk about. So let us know, man. What do you want to talk
Set a
about? We'll
date
set up
and a
something,
time.
and actually, yes. And I don't know. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, we can set up something.
Yeah,
and,
let's do that.
and make
Yeah,
that happen.
we'll hit 'em up.
Right? We should
Yeah,
make it
I
happen. Yes. So El Demlam L also in the house here.
Hey, that's another champion right there,
Straight
man.
corner, sir. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Bigger Crypto says, whatever happened to debt forgiveness? Student
that's-
loan debt forgiveness.
Nah,
Listen,
that's once upon a time.
listen. Okay, all right. So when Biden came out and he was talking about, we're going to forgive student loans, I think that was so obvious that this was just a political play, right, to get people to vote for. There is no way that I imagine student debt just getting forgiven like that. It's a very complex situation because there are people who have been paying student debt their whole lives. Some of them even went to their graves, unfortunately.
I have
without
folks
ever
like
having
me
to-
that shut down everything just to pay it off.
Come on now. Yeah, the student debt one, I think that was like a big one that, it's kind of like people just trying to ignore it. Like when he went on was it on the Breakfast Club, and he said, if you don't vote for me,
You're in black.
you're in black. And the fact that there was no outrage about that from the black community is still shocking to me because they let him slide with that.
Should just
It's
let
kind of
him.
like the same thing with letting him slide with saying that they can forgive everyone's
Hey man,
debt. But
it's President's Day, man. Let's not go smacking down presidents.
no, well, given the things that we're about to play, I just want to say that we're not linking the situation to President's Day, man. Enjoy the President's Day, but we're just saying that presidents have not exactly been
Presidential.
exactly right. So, uh, what? This is ridiculous, man. All right, I'm gonna share screen here. We're gonna just take just 40 seconds of this video here, and then we'll dive right into it. Sounds good. All right, so here we are. Is that the right window? Yes, it is. All right, so let's do this.
The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
August 5th.
All right, so there is that.
Excuse me, guys.
And we could say that was the point where the madness began, right?
Nah, it's been beginning.
It's
begun.
been beginning.
It's been in the system. It just got worse.
Well, look, I mean, that is the point where we got off the gold standard,
Yeah.
right? Which means that the dollar was no longer backed by anything
It's
solid.
a cool
right?
proof of work.
Exactly. There was no more. There was no longer proof of work, if you will.
Money became magical.
Right, and this is the point where we could say the money printer really took off. Was really jumped into its stride, if you will. Right. This is when I don't know how can we even share that one. We had that money printer go brr activity, right? Going right there. But ever since this point in time, right, we can see that for every president that we've had, that money supply has only seemed to increase significantly, right? The national debt has only been expanding.
Yep.
With some notable ones being here during the Reagan presidency, we saw 183% increase, right, in the how would you say, credit expansion in the economy, and then of course under George Washington, George Bush, Jesus Christ,
Bush the second.
yeah. So we see 105% increase in the credit supply there, and then Obama came through with another 69%. Now
69. That you must well call it 70%.
70%, right? Let's round it up. And of course, Trump and Biden. Now we are $30 trillion and climbing. A huge part of this is also, public debt, as they label it. Double O. Give us some details. What are your thoughts on this?
Let me just say, when we started putting this together, we were just trying to figure out, okay, it's President's Day. Let's just celebrate President's Day. But at the same time, let's try to get more information out to the people. Of course, the president does not decide the debt level. We have Congress and we have Senate, and they do all that drama that they do back and forth there, trying to, oh, I'm Republican, you can't approve the debt ceiling. Then the Democrats get their chance and like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and increase it. All that back and forth. Forget about it. What you guys need to know though is this. You can switch the screen. Is the fact that this majorly impacts your day-to-day life. The work that you work is stored in a currency called the US dollar. This US dollar, as long as they continue to print this money,
Right.
the value of that dollar depreciates. And your money that you think you are saving, that you put it into retirement accounts, XYZ, right? Guess what that money is doing? It's being invested in government bonds, which are then bought up and then become debt. So, if the federal government and it ended up not paying back that debt, which is those bonds that people have bought, that you and I, those of you that invest in bonds buy, or your retirement account, or your insurance, or countries like Japan and China has bought. Guess what? We are all screwed. Forget your retirement, forget your 401k, forget your social security. All that money is gone because that is where that money is invested in. The US government through the US Treasury. And guess what? The Federal Reserve themselves, which has no business doing that, has now bought that up. Which means if we're to ever defunct on paying those loans, all the money that you've saved, forget the stock market, everything is done. Zero, zap. And we've been watching the World Government Summit and World Economic Forum. They want a shock into the system. Maybe they want to use CBDC as a transition out of this mess. Hey, we can transition out of the gold standard. Maybe we can use CBDCs to transition out of this mess. We don't know. But folks, we are in serious danger.
Well, we seem to have gotten to this point a couple of times where we almost default. And then what happens? They just expand the debt ceiling, right?
Yep.
So are we really in trouble if they can just expand the debt ceiling again?
So that is what people are saying back. Like, oh, the US can never defunct. So you guys that are investing in Bitcoin, just shut up because we can always keep printing.
Yeah, I mean...
But as long as we keep printing, though, the work that you and I do, the value of our work is deflated away. It's like basically what nothing. So at some point, people are going to say, wait a second, we're just working for nothing. Like, I pay taxes.
Right.
Not only do I pay taxes, what you guys use that tax money for it's not even enough to pay off the debt.
Right.
So if you constantly keep printing money, then that means I must well not work. Because my money is what nothing. Because you can just print the money.
But that is where Bitcoin comes into play.
That's what we're trying to explain to people. People are not getting the point. Maybe when you see the money come out of your bank account, which it is, you just don't see it. It's happening every day.
I think as long as we share the message, I think that's all we can do. And then from there, at some point, everyone will have that lightning bulb moment on Bitcoin at some point in time. It's just going to be different periods of time for everyone. But I think it's just important to always keep talking about this. Let's look at some comments and then we'll push on. Let's see. LWML says Biden, student debt, and forgiveness. Yeah, exactly. This is an interesting one. You had STAKKs, didn't you?
STX.
Yes. Yeah. And so we have a comment here from Ken. He says, good morning. What happened to STAKKs in the last 24 hours? It exploded. You were showing me that and you're asking me if you should get out. First of all, why are you asking me? I don't know.
I don't know. So, by the way, it's not called STAKKs. It's STACK. And of course,
is that what it is?
Yeah, it's STAKKs, and the crypto word is STX.
Yeah. So what happened to that?
I didn't sell it either way. I still held on to it.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what happened to STAKKs.
So let me tell you what STAKKs does. So STAKKs is a layer 2 solution on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Right.
And it allows people to do smart contracts. And I was actually asking that on Twitter. I'm not sure if Ken was on Twitter. We're trying to figure out if it actually does make sense to start having those layer 2 solutions now, or do we want to get to the monetary standard first before you start solving other world problems? And STAKKs is already jumping the gun, trying to solve all the world problems. You can do NFTs on those layer 2s now. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's what is pumping it, but people are starting to move their NFTs and their smart contracts from the Ethereum space into STAKKs. So it started pumping. I was up 32% on my STAKKs. I was taking STAKKs on OKCoin to get Bitcoin. That was the reason why I invested in STAKKs in the first place. I'm not into all those crypto. I'm just trying to get some more Bitcoin. So that was my one way of getting Bitcoin.
Hey, look, I've been spending most of my time just trying to study lightning things. So maybe I need to...
It's a lightning thing.
Yeah, I guess other lightning things than this. I'm more like on Bitcoin node type stuff is what I've really been spending a lot of my time on these days. But that's pretty cool. Definitely. Let's see. Proof of nothing.
Sorry guys, I'm coughing this morning.
Proof of... Oh man, that's very interesting. Virgo says, good morning to you too, sir. Smash those likes. This is true. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in here, man, it's like all 14 of us. Please just smash the like. It's not a complicated situation.
Yeah. Crypto Nation. Come on, like, subscribe,
Uh,
gentlemen of crypto,
big,
Stack Nation.
I know. Bigger Crypto says Stacks is big, has BTC domains. Let's see. What is Ordinals? And of course, Miami
All the
Coin
notes are
is
the
built
Ethereum
with
peoples.
Stacks. What? Oh,
All the notes are like the other people, the Ethereum folks.
oh, the Ethereum folks.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Miami Coin is built with Stacks.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Hey, listen, man. I've just been focusing on the Bitcoin, and then of course there's the ratchet activities which I'm engaged in with Dogecoin on Robinhood.
This guy is making money with Dogecoin, man. They just traded it.
Listen, man. Somehow I got into the zone on that one. Let's get back to the topic at hand here, man.
Yeah.
So if we look at this chart here, we see that this debt, which is being continuously printed, no breaks, about 24 trillion of it is labeled public debt held by the public, and then 6 trillion of it is intergovernmental holding. Is that what the Federal Reserve's are buying up?
Yeah, so the 24 trillion is what the Federal Reserve is buying up. The international audience is what countries like Japan, China. Imagine China owns.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere down
Government
here.
bonds.
Where is
Yeah.
that chart?
Yeah, right
Yeah,
there.
so down here, China at 870 billion
Number two.
holdings of U.S. public debt.
So what happens if China wants to all of a sudden decides that, hey, we're going to dump all of that?
Well, it seems to me that all of it is intertwined. And unless they have enough gold or some other alternative that, for one, would outperform whatever investments they have within this current system, it seems like it will also be a problem for them to dump that.
Yeah, you can get 5% on a 2 year bond now. So you must well just buy them up.
Oh, there we go. And of course, we see United Kingdom at 645 billion. Japan, number one, at 100 trillion of U.S. public debt. Now, my question is, as this debt continues to rise, right? Obviously, there's going to be some expectation of trying to pay off this debt. What are the implications of that for the average person? Increased taxes, or
Well, that's one way they can try to attempt to pay out the debt.
right?
More taxes, folks, coming at you.
Yeah,
The other option would be to continue quantitative easing,
right.
which was introduced after the financial crash of 2008, which wasn't you and I's fault. They tried to blame you guys, but it was the bankers' fault. We keep telling you guys that bankers control the nation.
Right.
But the bankers got rescued, but they're still creating the damage anyhow, anyway. So more quantitative easing is the only way we can pay off the debt. But they're buying out more of the treasuries.
Quantitative tightening or easing? Because quantitative tightening is
Quantitative easing is buying more of the treasuries to try to calm the waters.
okay.
Quantitative tightening is stop buying so that we can find a way to. Quantitative tightening doesn't pay out the debt.
Yes, it's also been
It
shown
just
not to
slows
work,
down
so,
the debt accumulation. So one of the ways that you can see us paying this back is because we have to pay people back. The bonds that your insurance companies have bought from the federal government to be able to be insured, the bonds that your retirement accounts have bought, the bonds that your military retirement fund, your 401k, your social security, these are all put into these bonds that the governments are buying, these treasuries that the governments are buying.
right.
So the government have to pay us back. They own us the money because they borrowed the money from us. So, well, I guess if they can print the money, they can just print the money to pay it off too as well. Maybe that's how CBDC is coming. I don't know.
But that is where the problem is with this, because when you cannot have fixed parameters around your definition of value, this is exactly what will happen. Where you have this dollar, which is supposed to be representative of a unit, and then it's just continuously being debased over the years by a bunch of people that we have no control over what they may decide to do. This is where I think, even if Bitcoin is something that, yes, I get it, it's not going to happen all of a sudden tomorrow, but I think that it is a different concept that is worth exploring. You could call it an experiment or whatever, but I think it is a different path from the one we're going down right now, which clearly seems to not be working. And so I think ultimately more people will get this. It just, I always sort of wonder what that changing point will look like, where more people get on the Bitcoin standard and just realize I guess, really the fraud that we're living in right now. Because that's
Yeah.
when you look at it, really, that's what it is.
It's like they can print the money,
It's a
but at
fraudulent
the same
system.
time borrow your real value
Yeah,
and never pay back your real value. Whereas your real value keep getting deflated by constant printing.
yeah,
So that's like basically we're servants in the system to just create more money to allow them to continue the Ponzi scheme,
exactly.
which is quite interesting. I don't think there's a problem though. Governments continue to want to expand. For them to expand, they need more money.
Right.
So I think that's the challenge that governments have with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin prevents them from expanding unnecessarily to go to war.
I think you can expand, but the whole concept is that if you're going to expand and you're going to spend, there has to be proof of work, the value you're spending, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you earn it? The problem is this fact that there are people who are creating this value out of nowhere, which is straight up counterfeiting,
Mm-hmm.
which they call it quantitative easing,
Mm-hmm.
versus putting in that work. That's just the basics of it, right? It's like we've spoken about before. It's Austrian economics, spending within your means.
The values that you've created.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And it's
there's
funny too, because it kind of falls with the law of nature, right? Everything in this planet have to create work for it to generate some value or some existence,
right.
and nothing works without proof of work.
Yeah.
And the government should run with proof of work as well, which is what we've been doing before. Kind of like what happened to Rome. I think we're about to do the same thing. I just hope that we don't tap out like Rome did.
Is it that like Rome did?
No, actually, Rome did tap out because they were over expanding.
Yeah. I mean, multiple civilizations across time, since Songhai Empire,
Yep.
has been, it's really the same cycle every time.
Yep.
And so it's not like there's anything new here. It's just the same cycle. The people do the same thing. They get to a point where they get greedy. They spend a lot on war, money that they don't have. And then at some point they become weak because of it. They become vulnerable because of these choices. So let's read up some comments and we'll wrap this up. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know your thoughts on this situation, right? I think for me, one of the biggest things I look forward to seeing is just the evolution over time with people coming to this realization that Bitcoin is a bit more than just making quick money and using that.
Oh, people say it's volatile and it's going up and down. Just think about the monetary system and what's constantly happening to your money.
The dollar is stable in one direction. I'll give you that. In a downward direction forever. Follow the money, folks. I'll be happy to accept the blame if I was the one printing and lending money. But it's the banks and the feds that do that. Clearly. Very true. And why do people still listen to these fossils every day is beyond me. This is true. You know, actually, when it comes to people like Warren Buffett and what is his friend's name?
Munger, the warmonger.
Yes, that one. And their sentiments that they put out every time about Bitcoin. I think at this point I'm just annoyed about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. You know, that's just where I am.
It makes for a good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But it's just like, you just find yourself roasting these old people for no reason. And I really don't just like roasting people for nothing, man. It's
gotta be a reason, right?
Hey, you know, I don't want to be roasting people who are just stupid, because what really they need is to just be relaxing. I mean, look at the guy's almost 100 years old, man. What are we talking about? Bitcoin? Nah. Dinosaurs. Well, let's wrap this up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an incredible one.
That was a comment about debt slavery. Let's quickly look at
actually, yes, let's look at that one. So this is from Virgo as well. He says, debt slavery. Exactly, my people. Keep the public yoked with debt. Keep us working harder and harder for less and less. Longer and longer. Sounds like slavery to me. But, you know, I agree with that, man.
That's what it is.
Sometimes it might seem like it's oversimplified, but that's exactly what needs to happen in this space with the economic discussions and everything. There is a lot of big words that people use to make it seem like this is a whole sophisticated thing they're talking about.
Yeah, Bloomberg be doing that crap. Man.
Exactly. But if you break it down to basic terms, man, that is exactly what it is. We're entrapped with this idea of debt with an army behind it to enforce these rules. And then these people just keep expanding this debt and handing it over to us. And there is nothing we can do because they keep charging us through taxation. You work and you get taxed. You pay taxes at the end of this, you know, when you file your taxes, and you probably get taxed on that too. Then you go to the store to spend money which you've already been taxed on and get taxed again.
And you put money in your retirement, that gets taxed again.
That gets taxed again. I mean, where does it end, right? It's relentless. So there it is.
Slave on, slave
Listen,
on.
ladies and gentlemen.
Can I say something real quick though?
What's that?
It's quite funny though.
What's that?
We all work, right? And each time we work, we're trying to figure out where all our money is going. If you're not paying mortgage, you're paying car notes and so on and so forth. And you keep wondering, oh, Bitcoin is just another way to make money or it's just something like that. When you start paying attention to these little key details, which as a matter of fact, for many, people started clicking in after COVID.
Right.
Now they're trying to push people back into the office, back into those cubicles, so that you will not have time to watch us. You know, if you have to drive 2 hours to work, 1 hour to work, you're not gonna have time for this kind of knowledge. This is why we're here to do this, man. Watch the crypto folks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said crypto folks. Follow us on Stack. This is exactly what we're here for. To just give you that knowledge that you can't get in the cubicles.
Absolutely.
You know, keep you enslaved.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please, first of all, subscribe to Gentlemen of Crypto if you haven't yet. Subscribe to our channel, Stack, right? We're over there. Follow us on Twitter, StackFin. We're also on Facebook with the elderly citizens trying to do our share. Instagram has still blocked us, or they still banned our account. It's just there because we haven't gotten around to removing it. We'll probably just create another account, man. Whatever. We're going to create another one. Yeah. And then on Spotify, Stack as well, even though we need to upload more podcasts. Until next time, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning. Absolutely incredible. Double on. Final thoughts.
Stack Nation, Crypto Warriors, Champions.
Peace. Oh, wait, thank you.